Hey everybody, welcome back for episode 22 of Fabulous Duo Podcasts.
Hello, I'm Michelle.
I'm Kristen, and we have two new stories for you this week. Last week we had our live, and we gave you guys an exciting update for us, and hopefully exciting for you guys as well. But do you want to recap what happened last week?
Yeah. So we told everyone, we had an announcement for everyone, and the announcement was that we're gonna come out with a book, and we're working on it. It's in the works right now. And last week we had our stories. Mine was about
Chef competition where the judges are cannibals.
the chef competition where the judges are. I remembered.
What
was yours again?
My story was that a retired king or queen of thieves was forced to come out of retirement.
Yes, that's what it was. And both of them had pretty good little things happening in there. You gotta go back and listen to hear what we did with those.
Yeah, no spoilers here.
I think it turned out good.
It did. Did you know that the judges were cannibals?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, like who knew?
I know, it's wild.
It's great, yeah. It's this.
But moving on, so we have these two brand new stories for you. Just to recap, though, we are available on Samsung Podcasts, Podbean, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We also have our stuff on Listen Notes, and we have our YouTube channel available.
Yeah, so, and every week all of those things get updated at the same time as we update Podbean, so
no one's missing out.
Exactly.
And without further ado, I'll go ahead and start reading Michelle's story that she wrote. Okay. So this week, I gave Michelle the prompt that a crow tamer works towards world domination. And yeah, we all love crows. Everyone loves crows. Crows are so intelligent. So Michelle's story is called The Crow's Command. Here we are again, faced with something we never wanted. Something that wasn't our fault. It's not just us. It's the ones who come after us and the ones after them. It was never our fault, or theirs, but now it's ours and their responsibility to fix and repair something seemingly irreparable. We have always been running out of time, but there was never a race against the clock. The ones before me have left us to inherit a world that's only filled with rot. A world that they set on fire for no real reason at all. The ones before me left me with all the problems and no solutions, while at the same time they work against me because they don't consider that the issue is the pollution. It's strange to look around without the same jaded eyes, to see the world burning, and then hear the deniers' lies when they say that there is no fire. While we argue and fight each other, to them, we are all the same. It doesn't matter who we blame. Humans beget humans, and humans never really change. We've given the world a death sentence, and we are punishing all things alongside us when no one but us had contributed to this disaster. It's said that Mother Nature is our master, and she is good at healing all things and fixing herself right again. But that doesn't mean that she is taking us along while she heals this time. Maybe we're the disease that she needs to kill. Everything from the trees to the deer to the birds in the sky would probably agree that we are the sickness that needs to die. The ones of us who care always ask, what is it that we can do? How do we reverse what we've done to our precious earth? But the answer is never easy and somehow still riddled with hopelessness. The crows caw with the message from the earth, telling us our time is near, and that we've doomed them and all other things to her wrath. They've always been considered messengers of the gods, in some cultures anyway. In other cultures, they are creatures who created the sun, the moon, and the stars, and also control the tides. Could they stop the tides from drowning us? They ask, but the better question would be, why should they? In some cultures, they were considered the eyes and ears of the gods, but maybe the gods have turned away from us. That's why the crows stay here and sing the days away. They think that the crows and I are here to save them. But again, it's the people that are the problem. They want to know how I make the birds do my bidding, but I don't make the birds do a thing. They simply chose me as their vessel to exact revenge on the rest of the people. I am but a bird's secretary, with no other skill than to read and write. I do the crows' bidding as they are fighting for their world in a way they think is right. As birds of death and war, life and rebirth, wisdom and trickery, gods and transformations, it would only be fitting that they are the ones to find the solution to the problem that is humans. How do we fix a burning earth? How do we fix anything that is burning? All along, the answer was what humans were trying to avoid: water. The crows know that Mother Nature will be reborn, but humans have a habit of hindering her reform. Every dam, canal, underground bunker, private rocket built to save themselves would be destroyed by the crows, who graciously provide us with a single vindication as they work: nevermore.
What do you think?
Was that a poem?
You know, I don't know. So, okay, basically, I just kind of started writing it, and halfway through writing it, I read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, nice.
And the Nevermore is basically like a reference to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I just felt like writing something with the theme of, like the environment, because I had read an article about the environment earlier. And I was like, let me write something about it. And then it kind of turned into a poem. Like as I was writing it, I was like unintentionally making things rhyme. Like in my head, like it was like some things rhymed and some things didn't, and I would change things to make them rhyme, and I'm like, why am I making this rhyme? But like it just turned out, like I really liked how it turned out, so I'm like, all right, this is what it is.
It turned out really well, and that's the thing. Like I'm like reading through it, and I'm like, this is a lot of rhyme. Am I reading it in the? Because I was like, hold on, am I making it do this? Like, am I flowing it in this way? But I'm like, no, I think this was written to be a poem. So I'm like, am I just... So, yeah. Speaking of Edgar Allan Poe, there is somebody who has, like, 2 dogs. Or, like, I think they have 3 dogs. They have 3 pets, 3 creatures. And one is Edgar and one is Alan. And then when I asked them if they were going to name a third one Poe, they were like, why would I do that? And I'm like, Edgar Allan Poe? They're like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like,
The man named his dogs and was like, you know what the punchline is gonna be?
Yeah, so I'm like, you really don't? Like, I have no idea. Then I showed them who it was. Like, I've never heard of this person in my life. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
That's
a real comedian you got there.
Right? Imagine, unintentionally being this. But I really like the story. Because I like the flow, and I like that I was confused that it was flowing this way, because I'm like, hold on. Was it supposed to? And then it did.
And then it did. It was what I wanted. Yeah, so basically it's supposed to be like a take on the person who is the quote unquote crow tamer,
Hmm.
who basically teamed up with the crows to help them help Mother Nature in a way, or to just like get rid of human beings who they've concluded are a sickness that needs
They
to
are a
be.
plague.
There you go. So a lot of people obviously feel the same way, but like
They
for
do.
this, it's also for me it's like my own melancholy and my own sadness about the environment, and
Mhm.
it's like like the other day I was just telling you about how there's like all these other holes in the ozone layer, like closer to the
Yeah.
equator. And it's kind of like, wow, a couple years ago, I heard that we had fixed the hole in the ozone layer. And so it's kind of like this constant news of us just failing at trying to have less of an effect on the environment.
Yeah,
And
no one's
it's
trying to maintain anything or make it better. They're just like, well, I won't be alive to deal with it.
yeah, and there's that too, right? And it's just like that was so this like thing I wrote is just filled with with exactly how I feel. Like when I say
Yeah.
humans beget humans, it's that, even our generation, there's people who really don't care about the environment, even though with every generation it becomes more and more important because we get closer and closer to that boiling point. Um, and every generation, every older generation, including ours, doesn't get it and just doesn't do anything about it, so it's not to say that there isn't other important things, but this is very important.
Yeah, it's the environment. It
Yeah,
is the world.
yeah, and
So,
the thing is though, another thing to consider is that we cause global warming and everything like that. However, to be realistic, the only real threat um, from this is our extinction. Because Mother Earth has done this before, where she's basically, when it gets too hot, there's the ice age that resets everything, more or less. So it's not like the Earth is going to die, we're going to die.
yeah, which is okay.
Which I'm okay with. But yeah, and then like at the last part where I mentioned every dam, canal, underground bunker, and private rocket's going to be destroyed. I mean, that's on my part, that's wishful thinking, because you've got the old, like the boomers and the super rich people who own all these conglomerates that are producing like mass amounts of waste and ruining our
Hmm.
environment for the rest of us, have already built ways to just leave Earth. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's they don't care because they have their own contingency plans because they're rich enough to make these things. So I don't know. This is my conspiracy theory like side, um, but it only
No, but
makes
it's completely
sense.
valid because, like, with all that money, at a certain point, it's like, what do you do with it? And it's like, well, when the peasants come for us, we have to have a way to flee. If the world ends, we have to have a new world to take over and, do things with.
Exactly.
Right? So they're just like, we've got this set. We're good. You
Yeah.
know?
So yeah. So that was like my own take and wishful thinking on that, because like it would be the people who have the money to have these things to survive these natural disasters that they basically caused. Um, they're the ones who, you know, did this to the earth to profit enough to be able to survive whatever she basically throws back at them.
Yeah. We can only hope that
This,
they don't.
yeah, and
We
then
can
this
only
is
hope.
just like my own melancholy when it comes to these kinds of things, and I feel like crows are the perfect way to pair it with how I feel, because
Crows
crows,
are parrot. What do you want?
yeah, crows, like I did like I just did like a tiny bit of research, and I found like this one little blog where someone's just like, I love crows, and they just kind of listed all the like mythological and like religion and like cultural connections that like other places around the world have to crows. There's like Asian ones, there's like ones for Greek, Celtic, there's Native American symbolism for crows. And I think a real reason for that comes from how smart they are too. You know, like they've been around forever, and they've been outsmarting us. You know, whether it be because of our scarecrows or like whatever other kind of anti-crow things we put in our trash, they'll outsmart us. So they're also really smart.
So they outsmart us and they're really smart. Yeah, no, I feel that. I love crows. Crows are just such pleasant creatures, and like, oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, so that's that. Oh yeah, and then like another thing with the Native American symbolism of crows had to do with crows creating the sun, the moon, and the stars, and being able to control the tides, and being a symbol of transformation of the world and stuff like that. And I was like, whoa,
that's crazy. That's like, oh, I didn't know that was their symbolism there.
Yeah.
Like, you see them in so many different things in, like, mythology and everything like that, but yeah, that's intense. They did everything.
Yeah, I was like, wow. They must have really impressed somebody back then.
Yeah, look at that. It made a tool. Oh my god, they're builders.
The person, like, made a scarecrow, and the crow's like, that's not a real person. And then it's like, that crow is definitely a god.
Right? Oh.
Anyways. Wow. That happened.
It did, but it happened in a good way.
And now let's continue on to Kristen's story. So, last week the prompt was a person sprouts a third eye, and it didn't have to be on the forehead. The story is called The Birth of the All-Seeing. Based on what you're telling me, the scent of laundry brings you comfort because you are reminiscing on the memories of spending time with your late mother as a child. It's understandable. A lot of scents trigger nostalgia and make us feel different ways. Already was trying to help a coworker figure out their obsession with fresh linen-scented candles. Already was always giving out advice and helping their peers. Everyone around them had always thought they were super insightful and had an explanation for everything. Wow, that's amazing! You're right, I do miss those days when I used to sit beside my mother while she was folding fresh laundry. They were simpler times back then. Aridy's coworker had a slight smile on her face, thinking about her mother. She placed her hand on his. You are so insightful, it's almost as if your third eye is unlocked. She laughed. Aridy laughed with her a bit over this, but he's never been one for things of this sort. Aridy always ignored things related to fantasy growing up. They just didn't suit his tastes. Since he was on the mindset of, why delude yourself with things that could never happen? You just end up longing for a life that is impossible to achieve and end up depressed. Although a lot of people these days were into spirituality, chakras, horoscopes, and religion, to him it was all fantasy that could have a more logical explanation for things other than just saying someone is a Virgo, and that's why they act the way they do. He wasn't overly annoyed or found people who indulged in these fantasies as irksome. It just was not his particular cup of tea, and he would never attempt to ruin something that someone enjoyed just because he did not find interest in it. Due to all of his insightful comments, everyone in the office was always stopping off at his cubicle to chat and pick his brain, resulting in a lot of late nights trying to finish up the day's work. He just couldn't bring himself to deny anyone a chat or refuse their request for advice. He was a bit of a pushover, but at the same time, he did pride himself on being fantastic at solving problems, especially human ones. There was something that just sparked inside of him when he got those compliments from his peers, saying how intelligent he is, or that he could be a psychiatrist. So although it seemed like at first he was doing this to sincerely help people, it kind of became just a way to inflate his ego. To him, it was a win-win situation. They get their problems solved, or at least they have a clearer idea of why or how someone thinks, and he gets a ton of praise and recognition. Being well-liked amongst his peers was top priority. The clock was ticking away, and Aretti was still sitting in his cubicle working. His hands started to get really itchy, possibly from the sweat of gripping his pen for so long, writing through documents. The itching started to take priority in his mind, and he placed his pen into the holder on his desk, deciding maybe it was time to pack up, and he can wrap up this work tomorrow. As he was packing, he noticed that his hand had a small bump where the itching originated from. Ah, damn it. Mosquito bite in the palm of my hand? How could that even happen? He grunted to himself in agitation, while finishing cleaning up his desk. The itching started to spread, and he felt it all over his other hand and neck until it started getting really irritating on his body. He ran out of the office and sprinted down to the parking garage so he could hop into his car and get home to take a soothing, warm shower. As he was heading through the garage, going to his car, he noticed a woman standing nearby. She was extremely beautiful and almost had this radiating light off of her. He slowed his pace so it didn't look as if he was running at her, and carefully spoke to her. "Hello, miss. Is there something I can help you with? This is my car." She looked him up and down and noticed him scratching his hand subtly. "Oh, I think it's something I can actually help you with." She reached into her bag and pulled out a very beautiful glass bottle with a red liquid inside that shimmered with gold swirls. The vial was very alluring to Aretti. It had this strange pull that made him want to touch it. He shook his head and looked away for a moment to regain his composure. "What? No. What? Who are you? And why are you standing in a parking garage offering people mysterious liquids? Look, I don't want to have to call security. I just want to go home." The exhaustion in his voice was evident, and the itching was having him even more antsy to get home. She looked at him squirming and giggled. "Just drink this, and the itching will stop. You will owe me a favor, though." She offered the bottle to him. He shook his head and stepped towards his car door. "I don't know what kind of organ harvesting operation you're a part of, but I'm going home. Please get some help or stop doing creepy shit." As he was entering his car, she frowned slightly and then mentioned to him that this is his last chance to accept the offer, but he had already begun to drive away. Upon getting home, he tossed his clothing to the floor and jumped into the shower, feeling the hot water coat his body in an attempt to soothe the itching. It felt so refreshing and relieving for him. Finally, after toweling off, he had lathered his body with chamomile lotion in an attempt to prevent the itching from coming back, then got into his pajamas and hopped into bed. Throughout his sleep, he kept having dreams of that woman with the mysterious potion. She kept offering him the drink, and the more he refused, the itchier he got. By morning, his entire body was covered in bumps, and the one on his hand had grown a tiny bit larger. Aretti was the type of person who, no matter what, wanted to be at work. He never got sick, so he never had to worry about spreading any illnesses, and he loved being commended on his attendance record. With that, he applied a thin layer of lotion on his skin and got dressed for work. It was difficult for him to hold the steering wheel as the bump in his hand felt really sensitive. There was this odd feeling in it, like it was swirling or moving around, but that could have all been in his mind since it was just really irritating. He parked his car and looked at his hand to notice that there was a slit across the bump. At first, he thought the friction from the steering wheel mixed with the skin's sensitivity had caused it to get a cut, but that's when the slit opened up, and in his palm an eye was staring at him. The color of the eye was a beautiful blue similar to his own, but that's besides the point. He now had an eye in the middle of his hand? The only logical explanation that Aretti could have come up with is that the woman from before somehow followed him home and drugged him in his sleep, and now he is hallucinating. He opened his glove compartment and pulled out his leather gloves and put them on to hide the eye for now. Back in his office, he was definitely on edge and gave very short, jumpy responses to everyone around him. This gave him a label for the day that he was a do not interact worker for now. He barely noticed, though, that everyone had been avoiding him due to the thoughts piling up in his mind. Closer to the end of the evening, Areti was getting things tidied up and opened his cabinet drawer to pack away some files when he saw the strangest thing. There in the cabinet was the vial with that beautiful, mysterious liquid swirling inside and a note attached to it. It read, "You have this last chance to reconsider. The itching will stop and everything will make sense once you drink this. Keep in mind, you will owe me a favor." Nothing too serious. At this point, Areti was not thinking clearly and had just seen an eye open on his hand. The thought of anything being able to stop this from happening was very desirable. He popped open the top of the vial and drank the liquid. The flavors mixing together on his tongue were exquisite, absolutely unique from anything he had ever tasted in his life. The taste of this drink started sending pulses through his body and made his blood pump. All of this energy swirling around in him, flowing through his veins, until everything went black. Upon waking up, Areti was no longer in his business attire, but something strangely resembling a tunic and cloak combination. He also was no longer in his office, but on an open field somewhere very unfamiliar to him. "Hello?" he shouted, hoping to get a response. "Ah, I see you've accepted my offer." A familiar voice rang from behind him. He spun quickly to see this beautiful woman standing there in much different attire than before. "Welcome. You definitely look much better than when we last met." She gave a strange grin to him. He was no longer itchy, and those bumps were gone. Instead, more eyes all peering around, looking at their surroundings. The moment Areti had noticed this, he had a splitting headache and was seeing flashes of sights all around him. Each eye relayed a different piece of information to him. "What have you done to me?" he questioned in disbelief. She stood there for a moment and looked around. "I've given you a higher purpose and a much better life." She was playing with her long flowing hair, twisting them between her fingers as if this was just a game. "You humans are always so silly. Be grateful you are getting to serve the gods." Areti was paralyzed by his confusion. All of these eyes on his body appearing out of nowhere? Serving the gods? Wasn't this supposed to be a small favor? The woman walked towards him and placed her hand on his cheek. "My name is Hera, and your new name will be Argus. You see, my old one perished and I needed another. Like I said, small favor. After all, what is a human life but considered small when next to a goddess?" The end.
Yeah. How did you like that?
I like that. That was cool. I like the detail in how he was before. Like, you know, he was just like a person working at an office, like getting along with his coworkers kind of deal. And then like it was, you know, I like the detail of his character being like, oh, like I'm helping people, but I'm doing it for like my own self-satisfaction, which is like realistic for like a human being.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I like that realism of him. And then yeah, I like that Hera was just hanging out by his car and thing in the garage.
So, do you know who Argus is? Or
No.
do you know what an Argus is?
Nope.
So, Argus, or Argos, generally is like an all-seeing, many-eyed creature. It's a giant.
Yeah.
So, it was Hera's servant. And very interesting, like, there's a whole thing where they had Argos go to kill, like, Echidna and that whole thing. Also, Hera was like, hey, there is like someone that Zeus is like involved with. Can you protect them and just watch over them? And I was like, damn, you've got a bodyguard for your like man side piece. So
yeah, I'm looking at pictures of them of like what an Argos.
yeah. So there's a lot of different depictions of like an Argus. Some, like I've seen in games, sometimes in Argus they just have a giant creature with one humongous eye, and like it would be I would classify that as a Cyclops.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm like, oh well, if they want to name it an Argus, that's fine. I mean, as long as you can understand that they are all seeing. With an eye like that, they are seeing all.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's like a whole thing. I would just recommend for everyone who's interested in like, mythology, if you guys like Greek mythology, definitely research Argus. I don't want to give away the story of what it's all about and like what goes on, but it's really cool stuff. And when I saw the prompt was to have like an eye grow, and I'm like, okay. I tried to lead everybody into the direction of being like, oh, he's gonna sprout a third eye on his forehead, be super insightful, and everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, that's what it was. But it's like, surprise!
Surprise!
You got 100 eyes all over your body. Technically, you did grow a third eye, and then a fourth, and a fifth.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah, like, I didn't know this was a mythical creature that had just had, like, it's literally, when you look it up, it's literally just a guy with eyes all over it. It's just a guy, but he's got, like,
he's also a giant.
Yeah, he's also a giant, but, like, just, like, the images is just,
yeah.
I did not know this existed.
Yeah. It's so cool. I really love Greek mythology, and then I was like, okay, this is going to be an eye-opener for everybody. Because...
Okay, goodbye, everybody. We'll be here all night.
We'll be here for the rest of times. God damn. Yeah, it's really good stuff, That Greek mythology, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they did. With their stories and ideas.
With their thoughts.
With their thoughts and feelings and cultures and their figs and their plums and their wine. Anyway.
Yeah. So they had a good time. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the story.
Yes. Yes.
Do you, like, now that we went over these stories, do you want to let everybody know what we're doing next week?
No, yeah, okay. So next week we have our prompts.
Yeah.
And the prompt for, as we do here, the prompt for Kristen next week is, where do the one side of your socks go after the dryer?
Oh, that's, yeah. I mean, you've seen that episode of, like, Family Guy when they went to Narnia? It's like...
I've seen so many shows do this. I think I saw Stuart Little. Not Stuart Little. There was a little one.
There's a little one.
About a show about a little kid. Like a very small child.
I think
George Shrink.
George Shrink.
George Shrink.
Yeah. I think I was talking about.
Yeah, I think they did one. I think Fairly Odd Parents did one. I
wouldn't be surprised if Arthur did one.
Yeah.
God. Wow, okay, so my prompt for you is like... Alright, so, okay, basically...
okay, so...
a person has the ability to give any level of misfortune to somebody, but that same person will later receive an equal amount of good fortune.
Cool, so that'll be like, Crow's command number 2.
Exactly. So the misfortune was...
global warming.
And then the fortune was human eradication. Yeah. But yeah, it's like just an example for anybody listening who's like a little bit like trying to understand the prompt. Basically, I can make someone unlucky and they would like stub their toe, but then they would find like a $5 bill on the floor.
Yes. Cool. Okay. Wait, so does it have to be within that like idea?
Well, it's just within just an example of like proportionate fortune to fortune. Yeah. Just so people listening get an idea.
Okay.
Yeah. So So again, we're glad that everyone is here to listen in, and feel free to hop in on our lives on the first Friday of every month. We are on Podbean, Samsung, Google, YouTube, Listen Notes, and Spotify.
Yeah, like so many things.
So many things.
I think our next live is August 5th, right?
That is correct.
Yes, and that will be
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's it for this week. So hope y'all tune in next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Seeing how intelligent.
No, like, did I write intelligent?
No,
Okay.
I said intelligent.
Like, did I write that?
He's still going to work. He's like, that's weird. Let me put on a mitten. That's good.
He refuses to miss work, okay?
Yeah, no, it's good. I get like being like, I'm itchy, but I'm still going to work. But then you're at work, you're like, that's a eye. I'm still going to work. Good man, I like him.